Hey, hi everyone, welcome back. So, guys, as part of this session, I'm going to talk about the retry mechanism that we have as part of the configuration file. We have already explained you about this particular retry, right? If you remember, okay, if you remember, so whenever this condition is a true from a CI basically the continuous integration, it will try for two retries. If the condition is a false, it will go for a one retry. That's what. I don't want to use in this particular way. By default, I want to perform my local execution itself. In such a cases, I'm directly defining my retries as a one dia. Okay, retries as a one, which means if at all my script got a fail, retry that execution for one more time. That's what I'm just asking it to do. Re-execute it for one more time. That's it. That's what I was trying to do. Okay, we will detailedly explain about these retries. So here I have created a sample program where in which it's just opening, okay, where in which it's just opening a source demo application and then it's retrieving the text from that particular element and it's trying to compare that particular text whether it is Surendra or not. Definitely this time my script will fail, but here we have a retry mechanism. So let us see how exactly this retry is gonna work. So example retries the data spec. So when I try to run this one, as we have a two projects, right? It's trying to execute on those two projects, and of course the reporter got generated. If you look at it, my first project that it is configured is a Chromium, and my second project is a Surendra 1234. So my script got executed on the two projects. So if you go to the first Chromium project, basically, if you have a look into this particular area, this is the first execution and this is the retry execution. It did perform this retry operation here also. It tried one more time. Perfectly all right. So what I am doing is as part of my configuration, okay, as part of my project configuration, let me comment my Surendra project. So I don't want to go with a Surendra project. I just want to play around more with the retries. So what I'm going to do right now, so here I have given my retry count as a 2. Okay, my retry count as a 2. And in the terminal, let me retry the execution of this program. So it is trying to execute on only one worker. Okay, here worker, one worker. And there are two retries. If you have a look into that, this is the default execution. This is the retry one, and this is the retry two, and everything is executed on this particular Chromium project, and this is what the spec file that it got executed. Perfectly all right. So as and when you have a specified the number of retries, automatically it's gonna execute. But how exactly this retry mechanism is gonna work? Ideally, whenever you start executing your program, we have already seen about a worker earlier, right? Worker means it's a plain new browser instance where in which the execution is going to happen. Consider that you have enabled retry is equal to 2, but your scripts isn't failed. So what it will happen on the worker one itself, it will execute your first test, which got a pass. The second test, it got a pass, and it will execute the third test, even it got a pass. So on the same worker one, it executed successfully. Consider that my second test got a failed. So in a worker one, as and when my test script got executed, my first test executed successfully, my second test will fail. So what it will happen as and when my second test will fail, it will initiate the new worker in which it will execute the leftover test. So this is the behavior. This is the behavior when retry is off. Whenever the retry is off, whenever the retries is off, this is the behavior. So what it will happen? If something got a failed, it will launch a new worker and whatever the leftover test is there, it will execute in that. Whenever the retry is on, what it's gonna does in this case, the retry is on. So it executed my first test, it got a pass, and my second test got a fail. As my retry is enabled, it consider that retry is equal to 1. So in such a cases, it will launch a new worker too and consider that at this time your test got a fail in the retry. Though your test got a fail, as you have a retry mechanism of only one, it will continue with the next test. For suppose your test got a pass on the same worker, it will continue with the next test. So immediately a question that comes in our mind, Surendra, for the first time, as and when the test got a failed, okay, when the retry is equal to 1, it initiated the new worker. Consider that I have a retry values of a 2. Okay, consider that you have a retry mechanism of a 2. Okay, retries is equal to 2. Then how this is gonna work? Initially, in my first run, it will execute it, which got a failed. So in the worker 2, it will initiate the retry as a 1 and my script got a fail. As again, it needs to work on, a new worker will be triggered, and on that particular new worker, a retry 2 execution will happen. Even if it got a fail, it will continue on the same worker, the third test. Okay, the third test would be executed on the same worker. So this is the way how exactly the retry mechanism is gonna work out. Okay, this is the way how exactly the retry mechanism is gonna work out. And there is a one more option basically here which you can configure, where in which this is a test info. Along with your page fixer, you just need to pass this test info. Okay, you just need to pass this particular test info. So what exactly this test info does? Whenever any retries are there. So here, if test info dot retry. If the execution is retry, then what it's gonna happen? Console dot log. See, the test is trying to retry. How much is the retry number that will be printed, and what exactly the title of the test would also be printed. Okay, the title of the test would also be printed. Okay, I'm checking retry example. So just I have just change in my test. Okay, let me try to run this particular script and check it out. What exactly this console.log is retrieving. So as you know that it will be executing for 2 times. And if you look at this console, if you look at this particular console, this highlighted area, okay, this a highlighted area. Let me choose a box. Yeah. So this a highlighted area. It performed a retry operation for 1 time and the title of the test, and it performed the retry operation for 2 times, and this is what the title of the test is. So ideally, in order to get some additional information, right, you will be using this test info basically, which is a quite optional thing, which is a not mandatory thing. But this is the way how exactly we can configure these retries in this particular Playwright configuration file. Perfectly all right. See you again in the next session with a further example. Thank you. Bye-bye.